Hey, it's Jegant Drago here, and Mrpipz made a quick video about Arrowhead and the things that they could do to improve their game, and I just like to talk about a few game mechanics based from the video that he's made. So he went through three major points that I would like to react to, and the first one was about ship upgrades and ship modules. Now that we got the gun modulations and add-ons, it's a nice foundation to add more into the future. So them coming back to do ship upgrades and ship modules will be quite good, since we haven't had a new one for quite a while. A small idea that I had seeing how they do patch notes is that some of the patches that they do, such a few bigger buffs here and there, could be sold as ship modules instead, but a very cheap price tag. Their ship module menu system should be swapped into a tech tree, so people could choose which modules they like to upgrade without being forced to go through certain upgrades one by one. At least for this new version that I have in mind, that have various smaller upgrades, cheaper upgrades, that one would see it as a patch note on a Tuesday, but instead could be sold as a buff within the ship modules for very cheap. Once again, it should give some sense of achievement to players who would have to work to get those upgrades. It will give a little bit more immersion to the game. A little side note to the game about immersions and missions and MOs is that with each MO there should be a certain type of more clear reward for completing an MO, and if we lose an MO there should be a little bit more clear and meaningful punishment for losing as well. And a few ideas here is that if you win an MO and throughout the next week of the next MO you get a certain free stratagem, or you get a cooldown buff for a certain weapon for being able to, let's say it's a MO mission to take over a planet. If you take over this planet or you defend this planet, your basic reward is a small cooldown speed up or lower cooldown for a weapon or stratagem, orbital cannon, or whatever. But if you lose the MO, then it's a small punishment for that very same weapon. Let's say it's because the enemy was able to take over that planet that has certain factories producing that weapon, and so the production of that weapon is lowered, but ever so slightly. This should give a certain sense of reward and punishment for completing certain MOs, and might feel a little bit to get the players feel a little bit more involved with the MO as well, that they are actually gaining something meaningful instead of seeing some written report each week and seeing like only words as results of their mission achievements. Giving them something more tangible should at least get the players a little bit more immersed with the ending of each MO. Pipz talked about the grenade launcher wall as an example and a quick buff, and once again this could be added as a ship module from a previous idea. Is that the main issue with this grenade launcher wall is that it could barely rotate 180 degrees, and if the wall gets broken you cannot pick up the grenade launcher. A quick fix to make this stratagem more appealing is to let the player be able to detach that grenade launcher weapon, but the downside will be that you cannot reload that grenade launcher at all, so it would still be a one-time use grenade launcher gun, and you would have to throw it away like a Eats or Commando rocket, I think. And at the very least it would make it a little bit more appealing that if the wall gets broken down you can still pick up the grenade launcher and still use it as a support weapon, but you won't be able to reload it. The next point was about boss fights and special large enemies, and that is all well and good. In this idea, I want to reference the unique bug enemies like stalkers that can go invisible, and a few ideas. In this case, I'll just reference the bots, that there is some possibility for small unique special types of enemies, and this might be a type of enemy that's even more powerful than the new types that we see today, like the fire bots or the ones with jetpacks. And here is an example of what I'm talking about. So I'm quite inspired by the anime Trigun, and this sniper enemy really sort of comes into my inspiration for a certain sniper bot that can shoot from far away, but it would need a lot of like a laser sight to warn the player that they are being targeted at. Which comes to a small tangent topic about the cringe turrets and the balancing of certain enemies, where there are around 3 to 4 aspects, main aspects that I will point out, which is the AoE or the ragdoll effect that this enemy might do upon the HellDiver, how fast they shoot, how much damage they do, and in this case also their range and how far they can shoot. Now the most OP in this case, not just overpowered, but let's say bad design enemies are like the cringe turrets that has a little bit too many aspects of these 4 things. Their bullets, even though they look small, ragdoll and cause the HellDiver to just drop on the floor, stunning them. And they shoot quite fast. They also do high damage, and they also shoot from very far away. So all of these 4 factors are just pushed up to level 10s for this one turret. But if we check a different turret that's a little bit more well balanced, which is a larger cannon turret, it has high damage, it shoots slow, and because it shoots slow and has high damage, it still has the ragdoll effect and is able to keep the far range fire distance. But the downside to it is that it shoots very slow, so that one is taken down. So in this instance, the cringe turret would or should have no ragdoll because it shoots fast. It should have low damage because it shoots fast, and then it gets to keep at least a far distance fire range and shooting fast while having its ragdoll and its damage reduced a little bit. Now back to this sniper unit. Once again, the ragdoll would be very low. The shooting, because it's a sniper unit, will also be very low, but the damage will be very high and its range would also be very high. And this might provide a unique sort of small special force type enemy instead of Arrowhead creating bigger and bigger enemies to fight. As cool as those might be, it's just a secondary idea. Now, Mrpipz loves to talk about wanting horde mode, but he keeps talking about game modes while in HellDivers it's not really much about game modes and more about the mission types. And basically, horde mode to me connects with the eradicate mission the closest. And so an eradicate mission that has the map a little bit larger for you to run around to find places to hide and fight enemies, and just place down multiple mega bases, even mega bases close to each other, in fact, and just let Arrowhead just go a little bit crazy with that. And there is now with the bot faction, they have this new-ish side objective where it's just a bunch of walking factory striders that would go across the map. In a eradicate mission, just throw one of those minor objectives to just walk through that sort of a little bit larger map, and it should at the very least make the difficulty a bit higher. So horde mode would be eradicate mission. In the video he talked about a different idea that is spoken quite a bit, which is to have limited amount of lives, and a mission that would make sense for that kind of game design for having limited amount of lives would be the mission called Neutralize Orbital Defense, and I will read to you the mission objective description right here, that the automatons are using large orbital cannons in this area to bombard our super destroyer. We cannot allow our airspace superiority to be challenged. Deploy to the area and destroy any active orbital cannons. Now in this sense, we have cannons that are destroying our super destroyer, which means that they are at risk of being shot, in which case it can make sense in a story perspective that our super destroyer might have to quickly just jump into the map area to help pod us down into the mission, but it has to leave, in which case it would make sense for us to only have one or very few lives. And by destroying one of these cannons, that might open the super destroyer to come into the map range a little bit to give us 1 or 2 extra resupplies or reinforcements. And if we do end up dying and we have 1 life, we would only be able to spawn on the edge of the map, because in the story mode, or to make sense in the story and this mission, if the super destroyer gets any closer to the center area of the map, they will be shot down by this cannon. The only thing that might be a little bit tricky is that if the super destroyer is far away, then it wouldn't make sense to be able to use any orbital weaponry. So this might be a mission that would focus on using your support weapons that would spawn with you at the beginning of the mission, and you might have access to your eagles or bring down only eagles for this type of mission, and the eagles might take a little bit longer to recharge, which might be a unique mission that some players might like as well. With limitations would create more creativity in weapon builds and combinations. That is about all that I want to talk about some game ideas, mechanics, missions, and thanks to Mrpipz for making this video to be able to let me do a small reaction to share a few more ideas. With that said, until we meet again.